Spiritual nugget number 19. God can only work through us. On this episode, I want to talk about an issue that comes up quite often when we talk about spirituality, which is, why does anything bad ever happen to me if there is a God? And we've talked about this idea of bad and good before on the show, and how a lot of the time we would have a judgment of something as being bad, and in the end it ended up being good. But also just considering that sometimes I feel like my life has gone off the rails and I don't understand why God is making this happen, or God's not intervening on this. And there are a few things I know that help me reconcile that. The first thing is that God can do amazing things. God can make people come back to life after they've died. God can make two people meet who are supposed to meet each other. God can move mountains. God is not even bound by physical time. But one thing that God cannot do is anything that is not within my own human free will. Essentially, if there is something that I have willed to happen, God can not change the outcome of what I am willing to do. And so, in a very real sense, God can only do for us what God can do through us. Anything that needs to happen needs to flow directly through my will. And this is going to make a very close intersection with what we would call the law of attraction, which is essentially that you can manifest anything if you would imagine it, if you would feel it, if you would kind of create it into being. And this is really the principle that we're speaking to when we talk about, please let me be in God's will and not my own will. The other thing that helps me interpret why bad things happen is essentially this idea that I am here to learn something. And in my own spirituality, I believe essentially that everyone has a soul that they are here to develop, and that they've chosen to be here so that they can advance the learning of their soul. We don't learn things by being comfortable all the time. An easy way to describe this is, for example, if you had a daughter and your daughter was 18, maybe it's time for her to go and get a big girl job, and you tell your daughter about filling out job applications and take her out to get some interview clothes and help coach her about the interviews that she's going to go on. Essentially, you prepare her to go out and learn how to get a job. Now, you might know someone who has a job opening, maybe, and maybe you could just go out and... Now, in which case is your daughter going to get the most learning? Obviously, it's going to be the slightly less comfortable situation of her having to get her own job. And as a parent, sometimes you don't want to rob your child of the experience. And I kind of think God's the same way, that a lot of time we would be robbed of a great experience. One of my favorite authors and spiritual teachers is Iyanla Vanzant, and I'm not going to capture this the same way that she captures it, but she says that it's kind of like she's down here going, oh, I'm going to die, I can't do this, I'm dying. And her higher power is saying to her, oh, okay, honey, you go on and die and be resurrected. And very much I think that we would just take our problems and our trials very seriously. And I think that God knows that this is all sort of a playground. incredibly impermanent and really just a place that we would be here to learn from. Today, know that your God is working for you in every possible way, and become aware of the areas that you have created blockades. Maybe you've created beliefs that are counter to your own success, and just really consciously remove yourself from them. Realize deeply that the more you let go in any area, the more it can flow.